Blades Ramble are proudly supported by our main channel sponsor, My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. We would not be where we are without the incredible support of John and the team. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information or follow the link in the description below.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and this is the live stream directly after the announcement that Chris Wilder has returned to Sheffield United. Expected, who cares? I'm absolutely delighted with this news. And well, there's things that we need to think about. There's things we need to sort of... There's elephants in the room to discuss, I suppose, in certain aspects, but it's been a terrible, terrible period for the club. These last 89 days since he last left, which is, you know, it's crazy to think that, you know, it's less than 3 months since he departed and he's back already. I think it speaks volumes. We talked about it on Three Mardy Blades last night because obviously it's been a poorly kept secret that this was coming over the last few days. And it's officially been announced now. So Ruben Selles was officially sacked yesterday. That was Sunday. After a really poor start to the season. Well, the poorest start he could have possibly had. 6 losses in 6 games. Creating very, very little. And, you know, it seems like a short period of time. And it is a short period of time. But it seems like it could be unjustified in certain circumstances to those that aren't watching the games. But we are watching the games. And the fan base was united, pun intended, I suppose, was united on the fact that a change was needed. There were some people still clinging on up until Borough and even up until Ipswich saying, come on, we've got to give him a chance. And I admire that because we should be backing whoever is in charge of our club. I fell away quite early. A lot of Blades fell away quite early. But you still try. You still try and get up for backing your club. But people like Dave the Nose... been going to the club for years, apathetic, like, not apathetic, apathetic, like couldn't, you know, bring themselves to even be bothered about how we do, because it's just, you write it off to a degree because it's just, it came to a point where it were inevitable. How long did they leave it? Were they going to leave it for Ruben Selles before they sacked him? Because it just was not working. Ultimately, we tried to change too much too quickly and it did not work. The transfer strategy was the first red flag where certainly the sacking was the first thing, but they sacked Chris Wilder, went in a completely different direction, getting Ruben Selles in straight away. Straight away Ruben Selles came in. So it all obviously been going on behind the scenes. I don't sort of point any fingers about that because that's what's happened now. Chris Wilder's been sort of sounded out before they sacked Ruben Selles, but Ruben Selles comes in completely different to what we've been working on. Okay, we'll try it. We'll support the club. We'll do whatever we need to do. Transfer policy from that none of us really could get our heads around. We tried to get on board with it. High potential, data, AI driven. Just wow. Let's hope these work. None of the signings really worked initially. Certainly, you're looking at more long-term signings, but there were loans. So are we developing players for other teams? It was just all over the place. The first sign that things that the ownership at that point, we're thinking, oh my, what are we doing here? We are going down a road we've seen it before. We've seen the decline of Sheffield United previously. For those that have been around a little while, we go in cycles and we do go up and down, but you could see it. You could see it were inevitable that we were going down a path that we're going to be really hard to get away from. And the transfer window, as that approached an end and as the results got worse and the performances got worse, that was a sign to me that the owners were brave enough to switch up on their plans. Some will say it's panicking. Some will say it wasn't part of the plan and these are panic buys or panic moves. And there's full justification for that because it's clearly not part of the original strategy. But the strategy that they implemented was not working, nor was the manager. But the initial thing that they did was switch up on the transfer strategy. And the fact that they did that gave me a little bit of hope. And we talked about this on the channel where, look, it will not continue this way because we've now assembled a squad that is good enough to challenge at the top end of the championship. Not necessarily at the very top of the championship, but certainly at the top end of the championship. And now we've got a squad strong enough with Tanganga coming in, Ogbenny, Danny Ings, Ben Mee, all these players that we've brought in, they're good enough to be challenging. So either Ruben turns the results round or he doesn't and we get somebody in who will get the results. That was where my mind was at. I could see light at the end of the tunnel. It was just a matter of when they did it. So that was the first sign that they were willing to swallow their pride a little bit and say, no, data model doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be successful here. We need success for the here and now. Let's go get the players in that can do the business, proven players. They did that. And the biggest thing that they've done since is obviously the huge decision was to change the manager. And it was very much needed. The only concern we had there was, cost they such an unproven quantity, these owners, well, they won't go back to Chris Wilder, will they? They can't go back to Chris Wilder because that's, a lot of people are calling it egg on their face, or it's embarrassing, or the optics are poor for the club. Well, yes, they are, but who is better to solve this problem than Chris Wilder? He can come straight in. He knows the majority of the players. He's a proven model for success at this club. It suits all parties. I don't know what, but if they won't do it, because they can't do it, because surely they wouldn't have the humility to do it. Not that we knew them, but it's just so rare for successful business people to sort of take a hit on their pride and their ego to do something like that. So we're looking at names like, hopefully it'll be Sean Dyche, but he won't come. And then if we're going to have to settle for an in-between, it might be Michael Carrick, it might be Gary O'Neill, because that's a bit of a hybrid between a manager and a head coach, where they want to go. That might appease some of the fans. It'd have been so easy for them to make that sort of appointment. But I have to say, really well done. Because it's all right criticising them for the initial decision, and that's fair in hindsight. That's more than fair. But well done for bringing back the best man for the job. Chris Wilder is back in charge at Sheffield United, where he belongs, where a lot of us, and I get stick on here for being a Wilder fanboy, but it's because he is the best man for the job, in my opinion. So whether you think it's embarrassing that we've gone back to him or not, it doesn't really matter, because we need someone who can make an immediate impact right now. And there's nobody, in my opinion, that can do this better than Chris Wilder. So I'm going to read you the announcement now, because I haven't read it fully yet. I've just come straight on. Sheffield United have posted 7 minutes ago now, I think it was. It might even be a little bit longer. Chris Wilder has returned to Bramall Lane. He signed a contract until the summer of 2027. So it's less than a 2-year deal, really, to kick off a third spell as Sheffield United manager. He'll be in the technical area for Saturday's EFL Championship fixture against Charlton Athletic. What an atmosphere that will be, by the way. A message from the board of directors at Sheffield United. This is a statement from the board then. Following a difficult start to the season, the board felt it necessary to make a change in order to stabilise performances and strengthen our push for promotion. While the adoption of a different style of play was pursued with ambition, results have clearly not met expectations. Chris Wilder returns with proven leadership and an unparalleled understanding of Sheffield United. We are confident he is the right person to restore momentum, unite the squad and supporters, and deliver the results necessary to achieve our objectives this season. We would like to thank Ruben Selles for his hard work and professionalism during his time at the club. Responsibility for recent results lies with us as owners, and we remain fully committed to supporting the team and pursuing promotion. Wilder's association with the Blades is one which goes back decades, and in his little introduction at Bramall Lane. Brilliant. And they're right. They're absolutely right in terms of he is the man to unite supporters. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that's been posted. My dad's just sent me. Thank you, Dad, for sending me the link to it. I had seen it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I don't know whether they'll have done an interview with him. I'll have a little look to see if I can see anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't this time. So look. No, nothing. Okay, so that's all we've got from the club so far. Next time we hear from him, we'll likely be at the pre-Charlton press conference, unless there's any sort of quotes that they release through social media. Absolutely delighted. How is everybody feeling about this? I need to know how you're feeling, and I'll get through as many as I can. James starts us off absolutely buzzing his back. Max says it's about time. The Messiah returns. The smiles on all our faces will return. Tom says the king is back. Jack says, thank God, welcome home. I'm about to board my plane. God help me. Does anybody think that this... So, obviously, we would rather this never happened. And I think the silver lining to a lot of it is he will maybe be appreciated a little bit more than he was by the minority that didn't. I'm not saying he'll turn everybody, because he won't. There'll always be detractors. But I think that there should really be a recognition as to how good a job he has done with us. Even for those of us, and I've criticised performances last season, but those of us that sort of took for granted winning last season to a degree, surely you have a whole new appreciation now for what that feels like. We haven't won a game this season. Fantastic news, says Tom, and the best choice by far. Watch this team fly now. Simon says he's one of our own. He's one of our own. Chrissy Wilder is one of our own. So happy for this return. Said after the first few losses, Wilder's plan A, 1-0 wins all day over Seers. No plan A or B. Time to start moving up the league now. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. Return of the Saviour, says Andrew. It's beautiful, says Dempsey. Faith restored, says Matthew. Welcome back, Chris. At last, our season can now begin. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Ray. Michael says it's about time, Jim Bob. Next will be Parkinson gone at Wrexham. Yeah, a lot of people were starting to get a little bit jittery about that in terms of, well, as soon as the Wilder rumours started, they were thinking, oh, well, if Wrexham pull the trigger first, then Wilder will likely be a favourite to go in there. But and Rangers were another one that people were looking at because Russell Martin's in trouble. Yeah, should never have been in the position where Wilder was available to go to these sort of jobs. We're just lucky that he is a Blade and he doesn't hold it against the club that we have disrespected him in a lot of ways by sacking him. All the noises coming out of the lane, and I don't just mean the noises that the club want you to hear, but all the noises coming out of people close to him are that he understands the decision. There's no hard feelings, and he's happy to be back and excited to be back. So it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Kaiser says, "How are you feeling, Jimmy? How do you think I'm feeling, pal? How do you think I'm feeling? I'm feeling great, and cannot wait for Saturday. Cannot wait now, and it's like a whole new lease of life for the season. Absolutely buzzing about it. Beautiful day, says CPTD. Yes, says Sam. Tom says playoffs here we come. Up the Blades. What is the best that United can hope for now? Has automatics gone? 123 points to play for a lot of people were saying. It's not going to be 90 points. It's not going to be 100 points this season. 90 points will likely get you an automatic spot, we're thinking. Look, I'm jumping 20 pages in front. We just need to get up that table, don't we? I think we aim for 6th place. And then if we can get to that point at any time of the season, then you'll start looking up, don't you, and see where we go. But we are good enough to compete at the top end of this league. The king is back, says Dave Morwood. He certainly is, pal. Lewis says, not just a fan, player, manager, but a Sheffield United icon. The greatest manager in my lifetime and possibly in the club's entire history. Not just that, but the best for us now. Long live the king. Absolutely right. Mr. V says, hi, Jimmy, let our season begin. Andrew says, the king is back. Long live the king. Gaz says, beyond delighted, everything is just better when the great man is with the great man at the top. Am I being too greedy? Wanted a longer contract. I did too, but I think it's essentially just jumping back into where the contract he signed last time ended, weren't it? So I'm not too too bothered about it. I think what we have to do, and I talked about elephants in the room and stuff like that, we have to think about the fitness issues that were here last time he was here, because 75 minutes onwards, we were poor in the league. We talked about it on 3 Mardy Blades last night. So that's something we have to be mindful of. I think we can get better at set pieces. Somebody mentioned that in the comments, and it's absolutely right. I don't think we've been as innovative at set pieces as we have been in years gone by. There's other little niggly things that I'd like us to have a look at, but also the big thing is we need a post Chris Wilder plan, because anybody that criticises this decision isn't for what Chris Wilder can bring to us in the short term. Because I think the vast majority of Blades will be all over the fact that Chris Wilder can inject some life into this side and can likely get us up the table. What do we do next time it looks like Wilder's either hitting a stumbling block or the board wants to make a change or something, or we have to move? When we next need to move on from Chris Wilder, what have we got in place to secure us as a football club? And we've talked about things like bringing a director of football now, or a technical director, a sporting director, and get him used to working with one, but also that can then bridge over to the next appointment and things like that. So there's a little bit of continuity there. I think that's well worth exploring for us as a football club. And I don't think he'd necessarily push back on that. He was willing to work with Des Taylor when it looked like Des Taylor were going to be the director of football. But also I think we were talking about this again last night on 3MB, we need a bit of a conveyor belt of talent like we do in the academy. We've got some of the best young players in the region coming through the academy. Well, why can't we do that with coaches through the youth team? Jack Lester was promoted out of the youth team. Del Geary has been promoted up through the youth team and he's now in. Mickey Collins looks like he's going to get promoted into the first team from the youth ranks. Why can't we do that with coaches regularly? Why can't we have it as like a proving ground in the under-21s like it is for the players, and get them to progress into the ranks and sort of have that as a succession plan, if you like. So if Alan Nill, for example, retires in 2 years' time, then we've got somebody that's being groomed as his successor, that sort of thing. Anyway, that's one for the club to have half an eye on, I think. Jack says, is it me or does Wilder look so healthy with that beaming smile? He does. Love him. His little face in the announcement, back where he belongs. It's a great picture of him. I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing anything in terms of quotes or anything of that ilk. No, I don't think I am. Right. Okay. Let me know if I'm missing anything. Hallelujah, baby, says Charger. Simon says, hope they do a welcome back interview. It'd be interesting to listen to what he has to say upon his return. If they don't, then it'll largely take up a lot of the press conference pre-Charlton, won't it? James says he's back. Simon says, absolutely buzzing. Welcome home, Chrissy. Up the Blades, up all the rambles. Jamie Dumpling says it's about damn time. Good to see CW looking refreshed and more up for it. Could tell playoff final wiped him out at the time. Shires, he says, Delaney's going to be on fire this Saturday. It's going to be brilliant, isn't it? It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Seamus says, afternoon, Jimmy. I bet you have a smile on your face. Yes, says Fletch. Paul Rose of Wellstone Landscape says, oh, what a day. Could not be happier to have the Messiah back at the lane. Roll on Saturday and the atmosphere will surely be amazing. It will, pal. It certainly will. Tim Knight says, brilliant. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the Ramble. Also brilliant. Thank God. Mo says S25. Danny Boy says, it's something we need, stability. We're in a hole and need basic football to get out of it. I believe we need to move on from Wilder as a club, but for now, we do need him. Let's get behind him. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Why do we need to move on from Chris Wilder? Why don't we just need a plan post Chris Wilder? I'm not. That's not a dig, Danny. I'm just wondering why people feel like we can't go back again. I know you're saying we need him now, and that's not the point you're raising, but I don't understand why. And Rob Staten made this point yesterday. If he's the best man for the job, then why were we messing about? Why did we sack him in the first place? So Gabe says, gladly take him over Seers any day of the week. David says he cannot wait till Saturday. Max says, hearing Prince has also asked about returning in an advisory role and a minor investor. It's never really been off the table. But I think they're asking him more than he's considering his options, I suppose. That would be interesting. The smile on his face on the announcement says absolutely everything. Yes, it does. Happy Wilder Day says, Dan, Andy says Ruben wasn't right for us. We weren't right for him. Welcome home, Lord Christopher. Thank God for that. Very happy S25 Blade. Zonny says, what's the odds on Blades winning on Saturday now? Wilder back in and Wendy's will be crying. Yes, they will. Mark Meldrew says, goosebumps watching that intro. Nobody gets it like Wilder does. Absolutely brilliant. Long live the Messiah. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up the very positive Meldrew. The Saviour cometh, says Alessandro. Chrissy Wilder, welcome home. Bye, Ruben. Hello, Wilder. Marie says, yes, up the Blades, up the Ramble. Chip Butty's back, says Larry. Brett says, just as well he loves the club. I wouldn't have came even after being done dirty by the club, says Brett. Sonny Glasby of Glasby's Pallets, sponsor of Ramble FC. We'll be over there in an hour with Callum Fowler. We are back. Can't wait for good vibes, good chemistry within the team, and no vertical football. Press conference will be class this week on Cloud 9. Like and subscribe to Ramble. The Messiah is returning. Top man, Sonny. Hope you're good, mate. Martin says, great news. Unbelievable. Welcome home, Chris. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Cannot wait. Fodder. Mitch says, we're winning 10-0 against Charlton. Simon says, the Prince and Wilder brought stability to the club. Granted, the Prince didn't have the funds to move us forward, but he had the football business brain that COH lack. What a day. Let the turnaround begin, says FVY. Ed says, great decision. We'll see a completely different team on Saturday. The lift this will give the players and the supporters is priceless. Can't wait to see Ben Mee overlapping down that left wing. What formation do you reckon we'll play? That's another thing. Because it could be anything. He's so synonymous with the 3-5-2, obviously with the overlapping centre-backs. I certainly don't think we'll have any overlapping centre-backs anymore. But he could go to 3 at the back. I think this squad is built for 3 at the back. We've certainly signed a lot of centre-backs. Some will speculate, Man Mountain particularly, that he had some involvement in these signings. I wouldn't go that far personally. But the last formation we saw him play with the majority of this squad was a 4-2-3-1. So I'd be interested to see how he plays on Saturday. How long's the thumbnail been in storage for? Never you mind. Daniel says, you're glad you're not in the Prem this year. From a Leeds fan, any mistake is punished. We have scored 1 pen in 4 games. I thought you were unlucky the other night. Jimmy, how long is Wilder's contract with the Blades for? It's till summer of 2027, pal. 120 points soon, says Mitch. Afternoon, Jimmy, says Beast Boy. My football club is back. Lee says, so incredibly happy. Chrissy Wilder is back, baby. The 3 mucky ears, says best manager on earth. 50-1 to win the league, says Bish. Kelv says, very strange turn of events. In reality, he should never have been sacked. However, this screams of a panic decision by the board, and that doesn't really know... by a board that doesn't really know what they're doing. That's certainly one way of looking at it. And that you're fully justified in thinking that. And it may be an element of that as well. I also think it takes a lot of humility to have what is essentially blatantly admitting that you were wrong to sack him in the first place. And that is what they're doing. They have gone back to the man that they sacked less than 90 days ago and said, sorry. Sorry, here's your job back. So yeah, whether it's a panic, like with the transfer window, whether it is a panic, ultimately, if it's the right decision, that doesn't matter. So I think he's the right man for the job. I think a lot of Blades will agree. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Minus 12 will give us a flip. The Blades are going up. It's minus 15, isn't it? But yeah, I know what you mean. John says he has got a right job getting it back on track. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. That's another thing, isn't it? I expect a bounce. I fully expect a bounce, and I expect I expect to win on Saturday. Not that we're entitled to it, not that Charlton will be easy, but we have every bit of momentum now going into the Charlton game. So we'll have to wait and see if that comes to fruition. But it could, it might not. We have to. There's part of me that says, hold your horses. We might just have to be patient here. Steve Mumford says, fantastic news, but the contract is for less than 2 years. What does that say? And is it something to worry about? I think, from what I understand, it was just stepping right back into the deal that they'd just ripped up 90 days ago. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Brett says, I think automatics are out of the question now. Need to aim for the playoffs. Aim for the playoffs. Absolutely right. Joe says, said after the Millwall game, Jim, that Wilder needed to come back. People told me he wouldn't. Why would he? My response is that he's one of us. Always had a feeling he would be back after Ruben Selles. Up the blades, up the ramble, like and subscribe. It wasn't necessarily, for me, it wasn't necessarily that he wouldn't come back. It was that no way will the board go back to him, and fair play to him for doing it. James with a £20 super chat. Thank you, pal. Pair character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal. Pair character. Pure character sliding on his knees saying goal. Oh, I don't know, mate. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Gary says, welcome back, Chris. Skegness branch. Graham says, should never have sacked him. Completely agree. LVD says, the Messiah is back. 12-1 on 365 for promotion, by the way. Just chucking a week's wages on it now. Up the blades, up the ramble. Rob Staten, we're mentioning that. I think it's 3-1 for us to finish in top 6. Interesting. Alan says, time to move forward. Welcome back, Wilder. Paul says, guess who's back? Back again. Chris is back at the lane. Welcome home, the Messiah. Up the blades, up all the rambles. Like and subscribe. Chris says, Sayers' record wasn't good. Baffling appointment. It was. It was at the time, and it is in hindsight. But we tried, didn't we? We tried, well, probably not very well, but a lot of us tried to get on board with it. Simon says, bring him in an understudy straight away. Get Chris teaching him the ins and outs of the club so this doesn't happen again. I think there's got to be something like that. I mean, whether you do it as obviously as that, or whether you just surround him with really capable coaches who you can then select. If you've already got a successor picked out, it sometimes makes your job a little bit difficult, doesn't it? Tom says, what? What a complete shock of a hiring. Who could have guessed he'd come back again? Absolutely right. Bean says, happy he's back, but I do think the board have been very panicky with everything they've done. I do hope we hear from them directly with what the plan is. The transfer window was panic in the end. Yes, it was. Danny Boy says, bet Hamer's face is smiling from ear to ear with Wilder's return. I honestly think many players couldn't take to Sayers, but we're still trying to be professional about it. I think he wasn't liked. I hear the opposite, but like we said last night, being liked and being respected are two different things, aren't they? Helen says, HMS Smash the League commences. What a glorious day for the red and white side of Sheffield. Andrew says, give the owners credit. Changed it quickly to give us the greatest chance this season. Plus their statements say the change of style didn't work the way they wanted. He's one of our own. Completely agree, Andrew. It's hands up, isn't it, really? Up the blades is back, says Phil. Tom says the Messiah has returned. Hallelujah. So they managed to find a man who can get the spirit back into the club. What took them so long? Like and subscribe, says Dave Morwood. The glory is, says Dave. The Leeds fan here, Jimmy. Well pleased for you. Be a big ass to go up this season, but who knows? Good luck, fella. Up the ramble. Thank you, pal. Appreciate that. I now back you for promotion, says Graham. Promotion push starts now, says Finn. David says, from a Leeds fan, I have no doubt Wilder will get the team playing again. I don't see why a top 6 position isn't possible. Wilder needs to keep out of controversy or it'll end in tears. Good luck. Yeah, I think there are lessons to be learned along with the fitness issues. The disciplinary issues need to be addressed as well. Don't they? Not necessarily directly addressed, but not to be repeated is certainly on the cards. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Ian says, season starts Saturday. We've got to give the rest of the season. We gave the rest of the league a head start. Come on, Wilder, we're all behind you and the team. Give me that armband. Not him, Ben me. Jamie Dumpling with a £5 super chat. Thank you, pal. Constantly swapping hot off the presser thumbnails. Did you by any chance keep the old ones? Up the blades, up the ramble. Please get the channel to 10k as a celebration. Well, we're at 9.6 now. 400 away. Incredible. Thank you to everybody for your continued support. If you do like what we do, it's free to subscribe. It's free to give us a like on the video. It's very much appreciated and really helps us out. Fred says the board has some neck. Chris should have told him where to go. Never you mind about that. Sneaksby says, just want to say, big up yourself, Ramble. This is great news. I think this is great news. We have great signings and now a great manager. Bring back Billy as coach. Thank you, Sneaksby. Billy won't be coming back yet. I certainly don't rule it out down the line, but he's still playing in T. So you won't give up playing. So, you know, prematurely. You've got to wring every last bit out of it you can, and particularly when he's playing at such a high level still. Jimmy, do you think that Wilder can turn around the Blades' fortunes and get him into the playoff spot or even the automatic position? I think playoffs is a very achievable goal. We'll have to wait and see. Automatics might be a step too far, but if we can replicate last season's form, then I'm confident we can get there, but it's a huge ask. Scott says, how do, pal? Hope you're as happy as me. All feels right again. Shame we wasted 115 days or whatever it was. Can't wait to see what Wilder can do with this bunch now. Let's do this. Up all the rambles, up the blades. The name is Liam, says, what happens when you lot get to the Premier League? Are you going to sack Wilder again? Go with another manager and sack him for Wilder again? Winky face. No, we'll just be happy for now, thanks, because we bottom at Championship and we needed him to come back. We should never have sacked him in first place. It's poor optics on the club, and you get non-blades like this coming in and laughing, and that's something we have to take on chin because it doesn't look great for the club. But the majority of us know this is the right decision, so it was disappointing to sack him in the first place. Ultimately, don't compound an error with an error. Don't appoint someone else just so you don't have to reappoint Wilder and have egg on your face. They've swallowed the pride, eaten humble pie, and Chris Wilder's back. Love it. Phil says, Wilder, Warnock, Bassett, the best managers in my lifetime supporting the club. They all bought into the culture of the club and they all wore their heart on their sleeves. I think there's an element, I agree, Phil, there's an element of having to understand what we are as a football club. It doesn't mean we can't ever get to higher heights, but we shouldn't completely rip up our DNA as a football club. We should be acknowledging what we are as a hard-working, city. And these are our roots where we're not supposed to be the best at everything, and if we get there, we'll get there on merit. So it's about graft, and it certainly is graft at times being a Sheffield United fan. But yeah, I hope CW goes to a back five. I don't think we have the players to play a four. I think more money should have been spent going forward than getting so many defenders, says Bean. Nige says, afternoon, Jimmy and fellow Ramblers. Been announced then, I'm guessing. Just got in from work. Up the blades, up the Ramble. Ramble Football Club, like and subscribe. SUFC for life says Wilder will be sacked again if you don't get promoted. No, I disagree completely, to be honest. Skiddy says, let's go, Jim. The Messiah is back, buzzing. Nige says, now the season starts. Hopefully, lesson learned, says Kelv. Stick to what works, marching on together. Scott says, players will immediately want to play for him. Our heartbeat is back. Any truth in Prince Abdullah coming back as an advisor or investor? No decisions have been made yet, pal. That's been on the table for a long time, and nothing's been decided yet. Stu Bebop says, now let's get up that table, up the blades. Rob Gott says, thank the Lord. Alex says, feel a bit for Seers, but what an unmitigated disaster. Credit to the board for putting pride to one side. Great communicator and man manager, which was always going to be hard for Ruben Selles to follow. Brand says, cannot wait to see the infectious smile back in the pre-match press conference. Time to get Chris Wilder sent to me from heaven. Shirt back out. All right, okay. Let's have a look. Where is Ruben Selles? You won't find him here. The king has returned. CW. This is JT619. James says, good afternoon, Jimmy. Just finished work. Sorry about yesterday's gobbledygook text, but just had a few sherbets celebrating the return of Chrissy. Up the blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Come on, you red and white wizards. Mark Meldrew says, said before, we're never gone for the man who is best for the job. Well, we have now. Absolutely right. Will says, the king was gone. The king is back. Long live the king. Up the blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. He has returned, says Paul. David says, pleasing to see that the board have owned up to their mistakes. Let's all recognise that Chris Wilder has a big initial task on his hands to get the team's morale up and playing well. Up the blades, up the Ramble. Love the fact they have taken responsibility, says James. Fair play. I quite like them. What's Andy the Blade said over his return? Very happy. Very happy. Get in, says Super Sharp Blades. Paul says, blades get resharpened. Yeah, like that. Absolutely buzzing, says Jamie. Callum says, the best thing to have happened for the club in a long time. Renegade says, I think there'll be one very unhappy Blade, but most of us are super happy with this decision. Steve-O says, superb news, been waiting all day. Hail the Messiah. Romeo Dunn says, buzzing, we are Premier League. Absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Phil says, steady the boat first for me. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, Phil. That's what he's got to do, isn't it? Ian says, it'll be interesting to see who the backroom staff will be. So, I don't know if they've announced that. I assume it were heavily rumoured that Alan Nill, Matt Prestige were returning. And also that Mickey Collins was being promoted from the youth setup. And there's nothing in terms of who his backroom team will be. So that's interesting. That might be something that, if not gets released on social media in the next hour or so, will have to be addressed in his presser. Drew says, "I'll never forget this season." I know. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we did it after this? Neil says, "Only sensible move. He understands the DNA of the club and it'll appease most of the fans. Plus, he's probably one of the few managers that could get a tune out of the current squad." Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Don't really need that 2 weeks international break between, does he? Wilder's back. New FIFA is out and our last on nights for the weekend. Excite, says James. Wow. Matthew says, "It's absolutely the man to get us back to where we were last season. Stuff needs to be happening in the background about what happens in the summer 2027 because the same questions may arise. If he does well, he'll get an extension. I've no doubt about that." Euphoric, says Kev, and I think in hindsight the owners will put in place a plan and structure to make sure this doesn't happen again. Hope so. Come back, kid, says Ben. Confident we get playoffs now. Arden says, "Hats off to the owners for recognising their error." Russ says, "Should never have been sacked in the first place." Jimmy, good luck for the season from a Leeds fan. Thank you, pal. Cheryl says, Christ Wilder. Chris Wilder, he's one of our own. Absolutely right, Cheryl. He definitely is. Didar Drugate says, "He is us and we are him." Wow, okay. Jim Bean says, "We're on the march with Wilder's army. We're not going to Wembley." Well, we would go to Wembley, wouldn't we? We'd take that right now. If somebody offered us a playoff final on the table, we'd take it, wouldn't we? Darryl says, "I'm with you, Jimmy. Wilder should never have been sacked. Just done my one and only celebration of the season so far. Up the mighty blades. Playoffs are on." Jim says, "Wilder in charge. Survival guaranteed." Yeah, I'd like to be aiming a little bit higher, but, you know, the position we're in, let's not be arrogant about it. I think 6 is probably best hope now, says Tom Brammer. It'll take a massive winning run to cancel it out. I think we'll finish top half. What about if results don't come under Wilder, says Craig. We can't think like that, Craig. We can't think like that at the moment. And he's been appointed because they believe he's the best man to not have that happen. So we'll wait and see. James says, "Beautiful downtown Bramall Lane will be bouncing on Saturday. Can't wait." Any news on his staff? No, nothing yet. Nothing yet. P&J says, "Congratulations, Jimmy. You've got your man back. Come on, people. Nearly 800 watching. Only 95 likes. Over 1,000 watching now." Yeah, if you can like the video for us, and if you're not already subscribed, it would very much help the channel. It's free. Thank you very much to everybody that supports us. Big T says, "I can see it now. He went into training and sat all the team down and said, 'Right, Spoons is open. Let's go get some beers and get this season started.' Up the blades." Love that, Tone. Love that. Renegade says, "Rather have 75 good minutes than what we've had so far this season." Very fair point. Very fair point. It's all right as moaning about, "Oh, we only played for 75 minutes. What have we played this season? 15 in one, 30 in another." And that's about it, I think. Justin says, "Welcome back, Chris. Good to hear the owners taking responsibility and realising their mistake. The promotion push starts now. Up the blades. Up the Ramble, top man." Phil says, "Hello, Jimmy. I hope you're okay." I am very well today. Thank you, mate. Hope you are too. "I must admit, I wasn't looking forward to the game on Saturday. No disrespect to Ruben, but I think we'd struggle against anyone while he was in charge." Up the Ramble. Blades375 says, "And they say dreams don't come true. Welcome home." Well, Gabrielle says the opposite, but I won't sing that to you at this moment. Loudon Jim says, "I called it before Seers was even appointed, leaving with the sound of cop jeers ringing in his ears." Yeah, absolutely. Michael Snell says, "A very expensive chapter in the Blades history, but the right decision. Up the Blades, up the Ramble." Matt says, "With this squad, it's about man management. He's tremendous at that. No reason we can't go on a good run. Who knows? But it's positive now." Cole says, "Nice to see Chris back. Now let's crack on and see these lads flourish. How do you think the new signings like Chong, Barry and Chio will do? Will they get a chance in Wilder ball?" Yeah, I do think so. I think particularly the later signings will be very Chris Wilder type players. I fear for Bindon. I think Bindon's now down the pecking order, but I think he would have been under Seers after we sort of scrapped the original transfer plan and brought in more play, just because of the volume and quality level of players in front of him now. So I think Bindon's probably a loan that we'll look to cancel in January if that option's available. Louis Barry's an interesting one because I think if he sticks with the 4-2-3-1, I think like Dave the Nose was saying last night, I think Gus goes back to the left and Cal O'Hare comes back into the 10. So we'll wait and see. It may well be a 3 at the back, though, so completely different again. Just exciting in it to see something different, see players playing for the shirt. That's what we want. David says, Jim, has Alan Neil come with him? Absolute fantastic news. Not confirmed yet, heavily rumoured, as was with the Chris Wilder return. It was him and his crew will be coming back, essentially. But we'll see. Seen some tout James Beattie coming in as a striker coach. Loads of names being thrown around. Joby McAnuff is another. Joby McAnuff would be a great shout. I don't know him as a coach, so that's a bit of a crazy thing to say, but speaks really well. As did Liam Rossini as a pundit before he got the manager's opportunities that he did. So Joby McAnuff maybe would be a smart call. Kershaw says, surely he's doubled his salary. What a welcome he will get from the fans. This will be his biggest achievement yet if he gets you into the top 6. Mrs. MC. Mrs. MC says, I can't believe he's back. Did not think this would happen. So happy Wilder is back home. Cannot wait for Saturday. Up the Blades. Lee, on holiday, watching the Ramble. What a legend. Have a great time, pal. Just a great day for all Blades. It certainly is, pal. It certainly is. Kershaw says, do you think this squad's better than last season's? Interesting debate. Yeah, I do. I do think it's better than last season's. Lee says, hope Chris does a job for the Blades. For the life of me, I don't understand why you got rid of him. By the way, you could have gone for Rooney or Jesse Marsh. Hope all works out. Sean says, happy he's back, but not excited. I know we'll win games and challenge for the top 6, but we rarely put teams to the sword. Maybe a younger coaching team with new ideas with him as well. Maybe so. Maybe so. Pete says, automatic promotion. Why not? Christine says, what a relief. Just feels so relieved. What a nightmare this has been for us all. Yeah, it has. It has. But does the silver lining, none of us would have wanted it to go this way, but the silver lining is surely is appreciated a bit more by those that didn't originally. We'll see. We'll see. Josh says, just got back from college. Great news. The analyst is dead. Long live the king. 90 days in the wilderness, says Mr. Vorpal Sword. Jimmy Civil says, we shall never know what on earth vertical football is now. I know. It'll remain a mystery now. Tom Denton says, so happy. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Let's get to 10k. Our season starts now. Katie Shepherd says, good to see him back. The best man for the job. Up the Blades. The king is back. Ian says, this squad is screaming 3-5-2. 3-5-2. Yeah, it is. It is. 3-4-1-2, I think. Probably more so. And Jim agrees with you. Fred says, so the board couldn't even apologise to the fans. Disgusting, mate. I think the actions speak louder than words on this occasion, personally, Fred. Paul says, howdy Jimmy, the Gobby Ram here. Congratulations, mate. Now the Blades will smash the league. I hope you're right, pal. I hope you're right. Jez says, Wilder is the ideal man to grind the team back up the league table. Credentials proven last season on that score, so a sound appointment for now at least. Kyle says, I'm sorry about this. Alexa, play Club Foot by Kasabian. Sorry. I just have to read people's comments. You know how it goes. Chip Butty says, I'd be happy to stay up. I think a lot of people are getting way ahead of themselves. Let us enjoy it, Chip Butty. Let us enjoy it. If we're delusional, then fair enough. And you're right, in a lot of ways, that's probably how we should approach it. That's the sensible way to approach it. But we've been that downbeaten this season. I am more than happy to set my sights on playoffs. And if we don't get it, then yeah, I might be mildly disappointed, but nowhere near as disappointed as I would have been if it had carried on like it was. So it can the only way, literally, from here, is up. Is that Yaz? Yazoo? Don't know. Julian says, it's a shame that we have had to go through all this pain to get back to where we were just after the playoff final. No one gets our club like Chris Wilder, so absolutely delighted he is back. Me too, pal. Danny Talks Lead says, smash a like and subscribe, please. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate that. Coolest King says, I don't think CW is a better manager than the other options, but his knowledge of and love for the club is what makes him the best fit by far. I worry about the Messiah stuff. He's got to deliver now. Yeah, we'll get a bit carried away, Cooler King, if truth be told. Simon says, please fear Jimmy from a Leeds fan in Spain that has a lot of Blades mates. Thank you, mate. Anid says, this is madness. It certainly is, but I'll take it. Return at Jedi says, Red and white panty night for the Blades fans. I don't know if you meant party night, but we'll read it as you put it. Annie says, can't get my head around this at all, guys. Mark's Mighty White says, can't be any worse, mate. Hope you do well. That's from a Leeds fan. Miss them Wilder battles. Jordan Elsgood says, he's one of our own. He's one of our own. Chrissy Wilder. He's one of our own. Trusty Rufus says, he's got a big job in his hands changing the mentality of the players to winners. Done it before, though, pal. Done it before. Tom Bramall says, for me, it was the only option. He knows this squad and should get immediate reaction. 4-0 Blades on Saturday. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Viral Vibe says, I'm buzzing for the true gaffer is back. Oh, my word. Paul Jenkins says, this is very good news. Can't wait for Saturday's game now. Oh, my word. My word. Buzzing Jim says, up the Blades. Me too, pal. We are so back, says Game Slayer. Let's go. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Michael says, is Leicester ever going to see a point reduction, or is the EFL just going to allow teams to cheat now? Why is it taking so long? Playoffs should be the push for the Blades. I'm not bothered about Leicester at the minute. I think they will get a points deduction. I think it'll come later in the season, and I'll moan about that later at the time, particularly if it doesn't suit us or if it's not enough points. At the minute, I'm absolutely buzzing. Jamie says, Wilder's the only manager who can do alt for the Blades. That's the worry. The players are flat. He has to try and get... I don't know what you were going to say there, John, but he has to get a tune out of him, doesn't he? Bry says... all right, okay. Rossi says, so happy Seers has gone. Shouldn't have been given the job. So happy Wilder is back. Top bloke. Super Furnace says, the rest of the championship collectively shudders. Correct. Sam Goodwin says, when Saturday comes. Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Muir or Dry Bry, depending on which one you're talking about. I volunteer to tribute to be CW's successor. No, thank you, Jamie Dumpling. Train says, just wonder how much this is costing Compo. It'll be a lot. It'll be an expensive mistake, this. Wayne says, he's only been on a short break. Thank you, Ruben, for keeping the seat warm. For Chris, up all the Rambles. David says, the 3-month nightmare is over. Get in. Kev says, go for top spot and playoffs are a bonus if we miss out. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, aim high. Aim high. Love that, Kev. Gaz says, they're sounding out the Prince for a return as well. I think they've realised they don't have a clue and are clamouring for someone with a football brain to help. Michael says, it's such a short period of time, 3 months. It won't be easy to pick up the reins, but it could have been a lot worse. Welcome back, up the Blades, up the Ramble. PJ says, our club shouldn't collapse because one man leaves, however great he is. It shows a fundamental problem with the structure of the club. It has to change. Will Wilder see that himself? Up the Ramble. Completely agree with that, PJ. Completely agree, and it's something that we have to see change at the club. We can't be so dependent on one man. That should be our aim, our long-term aim. What have you heard about Prince Abdullah coming in, reported by the Star? Nothing new, nothing that the Star hasn't reported. The offer's been on the table for some time. Prince Abdullah's been considering it for some time. Still not made his mind up to my knowledge. There's a couple of different variations of he may come back. Doesn't necessarily mean he will come back. He may be coming on the channel very shortly to address it potentially. I hope the Prince follows us home and all. Says Dino, up the Blades. Flyover Fred says, Ben Mee was on the coaching staff when we sacked Dyche at Burnley. You could do worse than getting him involved on that side. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Would not surprise me at all. Rick says, great news, Jimmy. Up the Ramble, up the Blades, marching on together. Who else have we got? Thank you, Chris. Welcome home, says Simon. Joss says 120 point season now. Andy Blade says, I'm not your dad, Jim. Yeah, I know, pal. I know. He can't work it. For comments. I think the board has to be respected for realising their errors and fixing them promptly. Yeah, agree. Dublin Leeds says, anything with Connor coming soon? We were supposed to do one today, actually, but... excuse me. But obviously this has sort of superseded any other plans. I'm supposed to be going live with Cal in about half an hour. Cal Fowler on Ramble FC. But yeah, me and Connor will be doing something together soon. He's teed it up and got sorted. So watch this space. Get in, just finished work and seeing this, says Chris. Lee says, for once, I'm gutted to be abroad on holiday as I am now going to miss the return of the King on Saturday. I'm sure I'll get a stream somewhere. I'm sure you will, pal. Steve Simpson says, no one is pulling up trees this year. More open than last year. But we're in the top 8 come Christmas and top 3 come the end of the season. Jimmy Paddy, who's not a blade, it has to be said. Surely there's got to be someone better than Wilder out there. Not for me. Not for me. Paul says, roll on Saturday. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades, up the ramble. Like and subscribe. Lee says, Jim, I had a terrible dream. I was a negative Nancy for 3 months, but luckily I've woken up and Chris Wilder's still in charge. Yeah, it never happened, pal. It never happened. Paul says, the S2 lane Blades King is back. I love you, Tufty, the Messiah. Now we can win again. Good luck, Chris Wilder. Let's get back to basics. I didn't like Seers Chaos style. All the best, Jimmy. Up the ramble. Top man. Thank you, mate. David says, I'm happy to look at it like this. We're just 9 points off the playoffs. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. John says, I know I've said it before, but the owners were going on that Hull City result at the lane. I don't think you're far wrong there, to be honest. I thought I heard thunder earlier, says Chef Paul, but it turned out to be Chirac and David Webster's heads exploding. L-Dog says, evening, Jim, no mention of Nil or any other backroom staff in the announcement. Any ideas on the latest on that? Not at the moment, but I would expect Nilly and Prestridge to come back. Tabs says, absolutely buzzing. Nah, come on, Blades. Lane's going to be epic on Saturday. Neil says, Jimmy, this season the champ is very weak. The 3 relegated teams are ripping it up, and nobody is setting the division on fire. I assume you mean aren't ripping it up. Nobody's setting the division on fire, so automatic is on the cards. I do think there's not going to be a Leeds or a Burnley in this league with us this year. So we have given everybody else an head start. Let's just try and get back on an even keel first. 3 points on Saturday, and then go from there. Good luck, mate, says Jeff. Leeds fan here. Wilder will get you winning in no time. Thank you, pal. Cooler King with a £5 super chat. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Love the ramble. It's a great community that has made me, a neutral, feel very welcome. Buy some rose petals to throw at Wilder's feet on Saturday. Thank you, mate. Lee, who's been a member for 25 months. Absolutely ludicrous. One of our Platinum Ramblers, and hopefully soon to be a much more heavy contributor to the channel. Like and subscribe, folks. 10k for a retro day. Nice one, mate. You enjoy your holiday, mate. JB says, buzzing for you, Jimmy. Bravo. Good decision. Thank you, mate. The Ginger Blade says, Wilder must be rubbing his hands together. I wanted him back, but he's been paid off twice. He's been paid 3 years' wages to have a 3-month holiday this time. If you can get it, you get it. That's not his fault, is it? David Smith says, never mind, where's Ruben? Where's David Webster? Absolutely right. Daz says, 90 points is 30 games. 41 games left for the players to admit to playing poorly and give the fans something to cheer about. The Outlaw says, Chris will get the best out of these players. Let's look forward to seeing great football. Up the Blades, up the ramble, like and subscribe. Zach says, is Danny Ings injured? We don't know. We don't know. Nobody's mentioned it, so we'll soon find out, hopefully. And hopefully not. Wilder is back after being sacked and paid off. We'll probably have negotiated a pay rise as well. Good luck this season, says John. And good luck to him if he has. Scott says, I don't know what all the excitement's about. Is Wilder really the best choice? Gotcha. Welcome back, Chrissy. Born to be wild, says Josh. Yeah, we'll see. Mackie says he's one of our own. Timothy says, about time any blade who saw his sacking as a positive needs to give their head a wobble. One thing, AI is a load of rubbish. Keen Jelly says, I sense there's a promotion. Possibly. Thailand Tim says, just jumped on. As I heard, we've hired some guy. Anyone know anything about the new manager? I'll try and get some info for you, pal. Rich says, I bet the Charlton Athletic have just collectively gone, oh no. Yeah, I bet they have. Kim says, long to reign over us. God save our king. Absolutely right. Up the Blades, up the ramble. Rich says, let's hope we can kick on now. The owners have made a right mess of this. I bet everything I have that CW was left in charge would be sat in them top 2 quite comfortably. Is the best man for the job. Stephen says, over the moon to have him back. I'm also encouraged by the humility shown by the owners to put their hands up and say they got it wrong. Hope this bodes well for the future. Up the Blades, up the ramble. I completely agree, Stephen. I think that's a really good point, mate. Matt says this squad had it really easy from the fans because of Seers. They need to look at themselves. This squad stinks of relegation as it is. It won't happen under Wilder, but we need to be realistic. Fair dues, Matt. I take that. The players do have to look at themselves. Steve says, hit the likes, Blades, support the channel. Thank you very much. That would be much appreciated. Gaza says, he must be laughing all the way to the bank with all that money. He's had expensive holiday pay from the Americans. He certainly has. Simon says, get in. I've never checked my phone so much in my life. There is a Lord. The King is back. Up the Blades. up the Ramble. Happy Acres Gardening says, is the Prince coming back? We don't know yet. There's no real change from what it's been over the last few months, to be honest. Rich says, brilliant news, Jimmy. Can't wait for your hot off the presser. Up the blades, up all the rambles. Me too, pal. Me too. T-Dog says, Super Jack Lester needs his job back after being sacked for rubbish Ruben's replacement. Up the blades, up the ramble. Jack Lester won't be coming back. He's at Brentford now. Renegade says, anyone else have a wave of relief after this announcement? Fair play to COH for admitting the mistake and getting Chris back. AB says only 9 points from 6th place, noting that nothing that the Blades can't overcome. I agree with that. Charlie says, absolutely buzzing for Saturday, plus I can't wait for David Webster's views. Ush says, I have a feeling that Wilder has been coming back for a while. Feels like the latest signings was by him and not Ruben. They feel like Wilder signings. That's something that Man Mountain has speculated. Steve Ball says Lane will be rocking on Saturday. Can't wait. He certainly will. Joe Palmer says, I couldn't listen to Seers or Slav's interviews or pressers, but always listen to Wilder's. There's so much more football culture than the 90 minutes, and I feel like we've just got so much of that back. Completely agree. Yard Dog says 40 games left. Season is a long way from over. That's 120 points left up for grabs. George says, watching the Ramble on holiday. Thank you, mate. So glad Wilder is back. Made my holiday. Ricky says, buzzing, just happy he's back and knows most of the squad already. Surely the players will have a boost of seeing a good familiar face back at the Lane. Sean says 10-3 to get into the top 6. Got to be worth a punt. I know. Ian says, as a Leeds fan, I think he'll move you up the league. I hope you're right, pal. Rich Littlewood says, hi, Jimmy, hope you're well. CW is back according to social media. A lot of movement behind the scenes. Up the blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Charlton must be so sick, says Nige. Lee says, win, lose or draw, we still come back for more. Going to be United all the way. Taylor with a £5 super chat. Thank you so much. Seems weird to sack him and then get him back while wasting money on Seers. Yeah, it was a terrible experiment gone wrong, weren't it? Kelly, thank you for that, Taylor. I really appreciate it. Kelly says, hi, Jimmy. Are you buzzing right now? Up the blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble. Yes, I am buzzing. Buzzing. Steve Martin says, we should sing the Peters and Lee song on Saturday. Welcome home. CM Day says, I hope you get into the playoffs. Trying to get automatic promotion by no points in 15 is a tall order. Burnley fan, up the Clarets. P.S. Love your podcast. Thank you, pal. Paul says, Chris Wilder, the beating heart of Sheffield United FC, is back to win. Up the blades. Ian Staten says, Mickey Collins got promoted to the first team coaching last summer. Oh, did he? I didn't realise that, if that were the case. Maybe stop using Bigsy as a source. Fair dues. I didn't realise Mickey Collins had already been promoted. That's a fair shout. Ian Longley says, now the guessing game over Wilder starting 11 will be, come on, Jim, give us yours. That'll be for countdown to kick off. Matt says, evening, Jimmy, I'm buzzing. We got our club back. Our season starts Saturday. Is the Prince coming back as well? I hope so. Sound guy and gets the club. I'm so happy getting up the blades, up the Ramble. P&J Touring says, first you had Wilder, then got Sayers, who's milder. Now Wilder's back after Sayers got the sack. Now CW's at the Lane. Now surely we'll ease the pain. A little ditty for you there, Jimmy. Thank you, pal. Brian says, evening, Jimmy. So glad Chris is back, up the blades. CW took training this morning, so I've read, says Bright. Yeah, I've heard the same. Segundo says, congrats you guys. Hope it goes well. I'm praying for we do the same with Bielsa. 8 says, over at Charlton, somebody presses the red alert button. Battle stations, too right. Paul says, hope Wilder's happy with the recruitment they've done. If Wilder's not get sacked in the first place, what's the signings you reckon we would have got us? And you reckon the players we've got now would be in a Blade shirt? No, I think they'd have been very different signings. I think the players we've brought in towards the end of the window were Chris Wilder type signings. But we know that we had deals for Jimmy Dunn lined up. Harry Darling was being spoken to. There were another one that slips in my mind, but they were all deals lined up that we just did not push the button on. So it'd be a very different look inside. Luke says, Jimmy, I feel a bit sorry for Chris, the way the club have disrespected him and for what he's done, because in all honesty, he's the one who steers the ship on the pitch. Hang on, that's jumped away from me. He's the one who steers the ship on the pitch to help the owners financially. Yes, he does, mate. Yes, he does. Liam says, hey, Jimmy, Wilder is back, safe, standing on the cop. The team and fans united. The Lane will be bouncing. Now just hope the boring and tedious infighting of the fans on the socials goes away. Tough, innit? It's been a tough period. Ben says, we all said it when the board sacked Wilder. The grass isn't always greener, and now 89 days later, we've all been proven right. Up the blades, up the Ramble. Hype, like and subscribe. Barry says, CW is a doormat. The man has no pride. Marching on together. Thank you for your subscribing to the channel, pal. I appreciate it. Chris says, I hope he changes his tactics and not sits back like last season. Give him time to get the team going and be patient if it doesn't click straight away. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Reese with a £5 super chat. Thank you, pal. Really appreciate it. This is almost as crazy as the time Brian McDermott was sacked at Leeds and then reinstated the next day. Football is a crazy game. Yes, it is, mate. Yes, it is. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. Chris says, hi, Jim. Just stepped out of the shower. Wilder in charge. 15-point deduction for the offences. What have I missed? Yeah, that's probably it. Gaz says, I think he should go 4-4-2 from the end of the season, to be honest. Interesting. Oh, Mr. Vancouver is gifting memberships again. Thank you, Mr. V. That's a couple of people that have already got them. I think there'll be more of those. Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Dom says, finally I can look again. Absolutely right. Cyrus says, thanks for the gift of membership to Mr. V. Scott says he's seen Wendy fans crying that Wilder's back and really don't want the derby to go ahead. Yeah, they'll have been looking forward to it while Seers were in charge, won't they? But not anymore. Lee says, looking back on when we first met, I cannot escape and I cannot forget. Seers lost the plot, lost 6 on the trot. Wilder's coming home again. Nice, mate. Nice. David says, hopefully the board will back him in the January transfer window. I think we've got a decent squad. I'm not saying we won't need improvements, and I think it will tinker with things, but I think it's good. I think it's a good squad, better than we had last season. Randomer says, welcome back, Chris. No better man for the job. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Russ says, so pleased he's back, Jimmy. And one of the main things, apart from getting the team going again, it will carry the Baldock legacy, which means a lot, which Sayers are totally dismissed. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Russ, I have to say, I think it's unfair to say that Sayers had dismissed it. I know he never mentioned it, but I don't think we can tar him with that. But absolutely, in terms of getting what the club's about, and George is obviously a huge part of the club, Chris Wilder is the man to understand how everything, all the sentimental parts of the club, all the deeper meaning to parts of the club. That's true, but I think it's unfair to say that Sayers are completely dismissed it, because I don't think it were ever relevant really to anything he did. Matty says, now wait to hear what CW thinks to our start of the season so far. I think he'll be diplomatic about it, to be honest. Ben says CW's mindset is that of the team will be the season starts on Saturday and we're in control of our own destiny. A lot of football to be played and points to be earned. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, hype, and like and subscribe. Positive, I agree with that, Ben. I think that's exactly how we'll take it. Brett says the king is back. I'm getting the Peronis in. Nice one, mate. Sounds good to me. And I think I appreciate that more people have put more comments in, but I think I've read a comment from everybody now. And if I haven't, then I do apologise. Just make sure I've got everybody that sent a super chat in as well. So thank you to everybody that's commented on this stream. I am live in 20 minutes on Ramble FC with Callum Fowler talking about all the Yorkshire teams this weekend, and obviously we may come up. So join me there. There's going to be plenty of content coming up on the channel. So if you're not already and you do like what we're doing, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. And I'm going to leave it there. So for now, come on, you red and white wizards. He's back! All the Blades!